To support artificial intelligence, tech companies are constructing massive data center campuses at a breakneck pace, rapidly becoming the fastest-growing infrastructure project on Earth. Everywhere you look, the industry narrative repeats the same dire warning. There is a severe shortage of skilled technicians required to build, cable, and maintain these new facilities. That demand led to a massive hiring wave at a Microsoft facility in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin. A third-party staffing agency brought in roughly 450 technicians to staff the site. The financial bait was highly specific, $53 an hour, in a relatively affordable state. Crucially, they were promised contract to hire, meaning temporary roles with a high likelihood of converting to permanent full-time jobs. Combining a massive tech brand, high hourly pay, and the prospect of long-term employment makes a risky move feel entirely rational. Convinced by the pitch, workers quit their existing jobs, signed new leases, and moved their lives across the country. But when those relocated workers arrived on the floor, the unfinished physical reality of the site didn't match the stable future they were sold. The illusion shattered abruptly. Without warning, the staffing agency held a 5-minute phone call and slashed roughly half of the newly hired workforce. The workers pointed out a glaring anomaly leading up to the cut. For months, they had spent their days doing almost nothing. They received virtually no work orders and sat completely underused while the physical buildings remained incomplete. This presents an obvious paradox. Why would a highly profitable tech giant spend massive amounts of capital to recruit, relocate, and train hundreds of workers, only to let them sit idle and abruptly fire them? For the people who packed up their lives, the job stopped looking like a stepping stone into the tech industry. It revealed itself as a trapdoor masked as an opportunity. To understand sudden layoffs, we have to look at the physical life cycle of a data center. These sites move through strict phases, from the first dirt moved by excavators to the quiet daily hum of running servers. This graph shows labor demand over time. During the build-out phase, the need for specialized contractors spikes massively. But as the facility reaches steady-state operations, the labor requirement collapses into a flat baseline. Running the building takes a tiny fraction of the people. Tech companies know this drop-off is coming. To avoid the financial burden of permanent employees they won't need later, they use third-party staffing agencies to absorb the temporary build-out surge. Violent hiring spikes and sudden mass layoffs are not planning errors. They are baked-in, inevitable features of a data center's biological life cycle. 3 distinct players drive this entire ecosystem: the tech giant paying the bills, the staffing agency finding the workers, and the technician providing the labor. The staffing agency operates on blunt business logic. They only generate revenue if they successfully put bodies inside the building. That model heavily incentivizes them to hire as many people as the client will tolerate and keep them on the floor as long as possible. But recruiting high-quality technicians to relocate for a temporary gig is difficult, so recruiters use contract to hire as a calculated sales pitch. It takes a short-term deployment job and dresses it up in permanent career language. Economists call this information asymmetry, when one party in a deal knows significantly more than the other. The tech client and the staffing agency know the labor surge is likely temporary. The worker is deliberately sold an illusion of career security. Using third-party vendors for temporary logistics is entirely legal and standard, but applying reckless, guaranteed future sales language to those logistics transforms a standard business practice into a deception that ruins lives. The data center industry goes to extreme, obsessive lengths to protect its physical hardware from failing. Every site is built with multi-million-dollar redundancies. They install backup generators, dual cooling systems, and multiple separate fiber optic paths to guarantee the servers never go offline. Contrast that absolute mechanical redundancy with the people on the floor. There is zero labor redundancy for the human beings actually operating the facility. The contracting system is designed specifically to pass operational and financial risk down the chain. If a budget is canceled or a client suddenly shifts their deployment timeline, the individual worker at the bottom absorbs the entire cost. In a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem engineered to prevent failure at all costs, the ultimate failsafe is an expendable human workforce. The lesson here is not to completely avoid the staffing route. Earning top-tier wages while working in hyperscale operations, the massive data centers run by major tech companies, can genuinely launch a lucrative career. But you have to vet the opportunity aggressively to price your risk. Ask the recruiter exactly what construction phase the site is in, what the ratio of contractors to full-time employees is, and who actually controls the final decision to convert you. You must internalize the coldest lesson in the industry. A contract job is never a promise. It is simply a temporary purchase order with a security badge attached. For the corporations driving this expansion, the mandate is clear. They must stop dressing up temporary deployment labor in permanent career language unless they are actually willing to underwrite that future. The data center boom is very real, but navigating it requires seeing through the contract to hire illusion before you pack up your entire life for a trapdoor.